Somewhere right now, you are doing something completely normal, something you were raised to do, something everyone around you does, and it is making a Chinese person quietly uncomfortable. Not because they are judging you, not because they believe their way is superior, but because in Chinese culture, certain hygiene boundaries were drawn centuries ago, lines that were passed down through families, reinforced through daily rituals, built into the architecture of Chinese homes and the structure of Chinese meals. And in the West, those same lines were either never drawn or were erased so gradually that nobody noticed they were gone. This video is about 7 of those habits. 7 things that feel perfectly acceptable in Western households, but that most Chinese people would never do, and the science behind why they may be right. Before we begin, let me say this. Habit number 5 is the one that will change the way you think about your bathroom tonight. Habit number 3 involves something you do multiple times a day without realizing the risk. And habit number 7, the last one, is so deeply embedded in Western culture that most people will resist hearing it, even after they see the data. Let us begin. There is a phrase in Chinese that captures the cultural philosophy behind everything you are about to hear. It is na yi wa yi chu bia yi, meaning there is a distinction between inside and outside. In Chinese culture, this is not a suggestion, it is a foundational principle. The outside world carries dust, bacteria, noise, and chaos. The home is sacred, and the boundary between the two is not symbolic, it is physical. It is enforced with specific habits, specific objects, and specific rituals every single day. In the West, that boundary has blurred. The outside walks in with you. It sits on your couch. It climbs into your bed. And most of the time, you do not even notice because nobody ever taught you to see it. These are 7 habits where Chinese culture draws that line, and where Western culture forgot to. And if Sino living is already making you reconsider something you have always taken for granted, subscribe, because this is just the beginning. Habit number 1, wearing outdoor shoes inside the house. In most Western homes, shoes stay on. You walk through the front door, across the living room, into the kitchen, sometimes into the bedroom. The carpet absorbs what the sidewalk left behind, and nobody thinks twice. In a Chinese household, this would be unthinkable. The moment you cross the threshold, outdoor shoes come off. They are placed on a rack near the door, never past it, and indoor slippers, 2 Shia, are waiting, not as decoration, as a boundary. The door is where the outside ends and the home begins. And the science behind this practice is not subtle. A 2008 study led by Dr. Charles Gerba, microbiologist at the University of Arizona, found that the average shoe sole carries approximately 421,000 units of bacteria on its exterior surface. Among the organisms identified were Escherichia coli, a fecal-origin pathogen present on 96% of shoes tested. The study also detected Klebsiella pneumoniae and Serratia ficaria, organisms linked to urinary tract and respiratory infections. The Cleveland Clinic published a summary confirming that shoes also track in lead dust, pesticide residue, and allergens including pollen and mold spores. A separate analysis noted that shoes can increase indoor air contamination by up to 40%. Every step you take indoors with outdoor shoes is a delivery route. Chinese families understood this before microbiology existed. The slippers are not about comfort. They are about containment. That is habit number 1. Habit number 2, flushing the toilet with the lid open. You flush, You walk away. You never think about what happened in the 3 seconds between pressing the handle and leaving the room. In Chinese households, the toilet lid is closed before flushing. Always. It is one of the first bathroom rules children learn, and it is not about neatness, it is about what you cannot see. A 2022 study, published in Scientific Reports by researchers at the University of Colorado Boulder, used green lasers to visualize what happens during a lidless flush. The results were startling. Aerosolized particles were ejected upward at speeds of 2 meters per second, reaching heights of 1.5 meters euro, nearly 5 feet within 8 seconds of flushing. These particles contained bacteria, viruses, and fecal matter in microscopic droplet form. A comprehensive literature review by Johnson and colleagues published in the American Journal of Infection Control found that these aerosols can remain airborne and viable for up to 6 hours after a single flush. Gerba and colleagues at the University of Arizona demonstrated that E. coli bioaerosol was still detectable 4 to 6 hours post-flush, and that contamination spread progressively throughout the entire bathroom over time. Best and colleagues published in the Journal of Hospital Infection that flushing with the lid up produced concentrations of Clostridium difficile in the air 12 times greater than flushing with the lid down. 12 times. From a single behavioral change. A 2025 simulation study by Wang and colleagues, published in Environmental Science and Ecotechnology, confirmed that closing the toilet lid before flushing can reduce airborne pathogen exposure to other bathroom users by up to 90%. Your toothbrush is sitting on the counter, your towel is hanging on the rack, and every time you flush without closing the lid, a cloud of invisible particles settles on both. Tonight, close the lid before you flush. That is habit number 2. Habit number 3. Touching your face throughout the day. You are doing it right now. Or, you did it 30 seconds ago. You touched your chin, rubbed your eye, rested your cheek on your palm. You did not think about it. Nobody does. A 2015 study published in the American Journal of Infection Control by Kwok and colleagues at the University of New South Wales observed 26 medical students in a controlled setting. On average, each student touched their face 23 times per hour. Of those touches, 44% involved contact with a mucous membrane, the eyes, the nose, or the mouth. These are the exact entry points for respiratory and gastrointestinal pathogens. A separate observational study found an average of 16 face touches per hour in a general population setting. A 2020 systematic review by Rahman and colleagues published in Annals of Global Health calculated that the pooled average across studies was over 50 facial self-touches per hour. In Chinese culture, touching the face casually, especially during meals, in public, or after handling objects, is discouraged from childhood. Children are taught to keep their hands below their chin unless they have just washed them. It is not framed as hygiene science, it is framed as self-discipline. But the result is the same. Your hands are the most contaminated surface you own. And your face is the most vulnerable surface you touch. That is habit number 3. If something here has already made you pause, if you are looking at your own habits differently right now, tap that like button. This is what Sino Living exists to explore, and your support helps this reach someone who needs to hear it. Habit number 4. Washing hands for less than 20 seconds or not at all before eating. The CDC recommends washing hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. 20 seconds. That is 2 full rounds of singing Happy Birthday in your head. A 2023 observational study conducted by the United States Department of Agriculture found that participants failed to wash their hands correctly 97% of the time. Not 50%, not 70, 97. Most people either skipped soap, did not scrub long enough, or dried their hands on contaminated surfaces immediately afterward. The same study found that 48% of participants cross-contaminated spice containers while preparing food simply because their hands were not properly cleaned. In Chinese households, hand washing before meals is a non-negotiable ritual. It is taught before a child can read. The phrase "fan qian," she, wash hands before eating, is one of the first hygiene instructions Chinese children memorize. It is repeated in schools, reinforced at home, and expected in restaurants. This is not about being cautious. It is about understanding that the space between what your hands have touched in the last hour and the food about to enter your mouth is only as safe as the 20 seconds you spend at the sink. If you are not counting to 20 euros slowly with soap under running water, you are not washing your hands. You are wetting them. That is habit number 4. Habit number 5, going to bed without showering first. This is the habit I told you would change the way you think about your bathroom tonight. In the West, showering is a morning ritual. You wake up, you shower, you start your day clean. But what about everything that happened before you got into bed? The commute, the office, the gym, the bus seat, the elevator button, the restaurant chair, all of that, every particle, every microorganism, every layer of sweat and environmental residue goes into your sheets, onto your pillow, and against your skin for 7 to 9 hours. In Chinese culture, bathing before bed is the default. It is not considered an option. It is considered basic hygiene. The reasoning comes from traditional Chinese medicine. The body accumulates external pathogens throughout the day, what TCM calls xia, or pathogenic energy, and bathing before sleep is the act of clearing that accumulation before it has a chance to settle into the body during rest. A 2017 systematic review and meta-analysis published in Sleep Medicine Reviews by Hygiene and colleagues at the University of Texas at Austin found that a warm bath or shower taken 1 to 2 hours before bedtime significantly improved sleep onset latency, meaning people fell asleep faster, and improved overall sleep quality. The mechanism involves thermoregulation. Warm water brings blood to the skin's surface, and the subsequent cooling signals the brain to release melatonin and initiate sleep. But the hygiene dimension is equally important. Your pillowcase accumulates skin cells, oils, bacteria, and environmental contaminants every night. If you are not showering before bed, you are adding a full day's worth of external exposure to a surface that presses against your face for hours. Chinese families do not debate this. The shower is not optional before sleep. It is the last act of the day, the closing of the boundary between outside and inside. That is habit number 5. Habit number 6, blowing your nose loudly in public. In most Western countries, blowing your nose into a tissue in public is considered perfectly normal, polite even. You have a cold, you reach for a tissue, you blow, you carry on with your conversation. In China, this is deeply uncomfortable for the people around you. Blowing your nose in public ado, especially at a dining table, in a meeting, or in close proximity to others, is considered one of the most impolite hygiene behaviors a person can perform. The sound, the visibility of the act, and the implicit display of bodily fluid in a shared space all violate the Chinese principle of gari mian zioro, preserving the dignity and comfort of those around you. This is not a minor cultural preference. It is a deeply held social boundary. In Chinese etiquette, if you need to clear your nose, you excuse yourself. You find a private space, a restroom, a hallway, an area away from others. You handle it discreetly, and you return without drawing attention to what just happened. There is also a practical layer. A 2016 study published in Clinical Infectious Diseases by Tellier and colleagues reviewed the mechanisms of respiratory pathogen transmission and confirmed that forceful nose blowing can generate aerosolized droplets containing viral and bacterial pathogens. These droplets can travel and settle on surfaces within a 1 to 2 meter radius. Every public nose blow is not just a sound, it is a small broadcast. Chinese culture treats it as one. That is habit number 6. Habit number 7. Sleeping in the same bed as your pet. This is the one I warned you about at the beginning, the one that is so deeply embedded in Western culture that most people will resist hearing it. In the West, pets are family. They sit on the couch. They sleep at the foot of the bed. They curl up on the pillow, and the emotional bond is genuine. But in Chinese households, the sleeping space is protected with the same intensity as the front door. Pets are loved, they are cared for, but they do not enter the bed. A 2022 systematic review published in Zoonoses and Public Health by Zanin and colleagues examined the health risks of co-sleeping with pets. The findings were significant. Of 22 dogs tested, 86% carried Enterobacteriaceae, a family of bacteria that includes E. coli and Salmonella on their fur or foot pads. Fleas were found on nearly a quarter of the animals. The review identified documented cases of zoonotic transmission of Pasteurella, Missa, ringworm, and even plague linked to close sleeping contact with pets. The CDC's Emerging Infectious Diseases Journal published a case review by Chomel and Son, documenting multiple cases of parasitic and bacterial infections transmitted through pet-to-human bed contact, including Chagas disease from a pet's fecal matter and cat scratch disease from facial licking. 60% of pet owners in the study reported allowing their pets to lick their faces. The researchers concluded that intimate contact with pets, particularly during sleep, when immune surveillance is naturally lower, represents a genuine and underappreciated zoonotic risk. In Chinese culture, the bed is not just a place to sleep. It is a space of restoration, and what enters that space, from shoes to street clothes to animals that have walked across floors, grass, and soil, is carefully controlled. Your love for your pet is not in question. What is in question is whether the boundary between affection and hygiene has been drawn clearly enough. That is habit number 7. Now here is what connects all 7 of these habits. None of them require money. None of them require technology. And none of them were invented in a laboratory. They were built into Chinese daily life over centuries, through the principle that where the outside ends and the inside begins is not an abstract idea. It is a physical practice, a daily ritual, a line drawn with slippers at the door, soap at the sink, a closed lid, clean hands, a shower before sleep, discretion in public, and a protected bed. The outside carries what you cannot control. The home holds what you can, and the habits between the two are either guarding you or letting everything through. You do not need a cleaner house. You need a clearer boundary. Now I want to hear from you. Tell me in the comments, which habit genuinely surprised you? Not the one you already suspected, the one that made you uncomfortable, the one that made you look at something you do every single day and wonder why you never questioned it. And if there is someone in your life who has never thought about these boundaries, someone who would benefit from seeing them clearly for the first time, send them this video. You do not have to explain why. Just share it. They will understand. And if you are new to Sino Living, this is what we do here. We look at the invisible habits that shape your health, your home, and your daily life, and we ask the question nobody else is asking: is this still serving you? Subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.